And so then the question is it incumbent on the Republicans in the House who are opposed to this to not just say they're opposed to it when they go on CNN or whatever, but to actually do something?
Tim Miller of The Bulwark went on MSNBC to talk about Trump's tariffs and the fact that there are some MAGA people that are now starting to push back against this. But why are there not more? So we're going to take a look at these clips of Tim Miller on MSNBC. I have my thoughts on this as well. Let's check it out together.
The politics, the gravitational pull, the politics is that Republicans will lose both chambers. Why does Trump want that?
Does he believe that? I guess. I don't know. This is all, we get into the psycho.
Ted Cruz clearly believes
we get into psychoanalyst table.
Well, let me show you where his coalition is.
Sure.
Here's David Portnoy.
This one's the only one that I can think of that's like man-made. Like the stock market crashes in 9/11. Yes. Stock market crashed COVID. Yes. But this is like a decision that one guy made that crashed the whole stock market. That's why we're calling it Orange Monday, not Black Monday. I saw Howard Lutnick being like, we're going to live in a world where there's an army of Americans screwing in little things into iPhones. Like what? What American's going to take that job? So to me, this is all about negotiating the tariff rates. It's all about getting equal trade, fair trade, which everybody wants. And it's a noble thing that Trump's trying to get done. But he can't really have leverage negotiating these deals. If the stock market is going to crash, everyone's going to join, what's he call it, the panicking party, and he has to reverse course. So you see, he's kind of like stuck.
See?
Yeah, what I see a lot from Dave Portnoy and from the Mar-a-Lago Accord crowd, I listened to a long podcast about that to try to understand it the other day, is what I would call cope. Cope is the word that's happening, because these guys just refuse to believe the reality that's in front of their eyes, which is that they elected a moron who bankrupted a casino as president, and now he's doing to the country what he did to several casinos. That is what is happening here. There's not any complex plan in place. There's not a 40 chess negotiation happening to rebalance trade between us and Europe. Like there's not, like none of that is, they're not devaluing the dollar to pay down the debt. Like none of that is part of the plan. Like this is a mad king who doesn't know what he's doing, who loves the word tariff, and who is, stubborn, and who is going to ride or die on this. Maybe one day he'll change his mind and decide, I can declare victory because I have a cult of 33% of supporters that'll go along with it, and I'm annoyed with rich people calling me and complaining. Like that might happen someday, but that won't be because it was part of a broader plan that was in place. Here's the other thing is if the negotiations were happening, like let's even give them the best case scenario. Let's say that Scott Bessent and Trump negotiate 15 deals with Israel and Turkey and a handful of other countries. Like we still, like the China tariffs are going the wrong direction. He's moving them up to 104%. And like even if they cut 12 deals, we still would have a tariff increase that would be beyond anything that happened in Trump 1.0, anything that any of the small tariffs that Biden did, any imaginable tariffs. So that wouldn't, it might help the stock market for a day or two, but it would not help like these long-term systemic problems that are being created. And I was pretty struck by Doug Holtz-Eakin. I don't know if all of the viewers caught this, but in a normal Republican presidency, Doug would have Kevin Hassett's job or Scott Bessent's job. And for him just to bluntly say, we're headed towards a recession and probably stagflation, like that's not coming from somebody, in our camp.
No, I know.
They can, number one, limit that authority by saying, okay, we'll take votes on those emergencies. And they did one in the Senate, and it passed. It's probably not going to get through the House. Or they could take back the power to levy tariffs, take it away from the president, and there are bills to do that. So think about this, Nicole. If this was part of the congressional process, they would have to pass it in law, probably in this reconciliation bill. There would be an effective date. You'd know when they started. There would be a rate. You would know what that rate would be. There would be a base. You would know what countries were in or out, what products were in or out, who got an exemption instead of going out of commerce and trying to get one out of, lobbying Secretary Lutnick. It would be a sane process. You would not like tariffs, but you would deliver them in a reasoned and debated way. And they gave that away.
Tim.
Yes. I agree with a lot of what Doug said there, but there was one kind of thing you elided over, which is this bill to take back some control, I believe it was just on the Canada tariffs that passed the Senate. And he said, well, that's probably not going to get through the House. But why is that? Well, it's because Mike Johnson won't bring it up, because it would get through the House if you actually brought it up to a vote. And so then the question is, is it incumbent on the Republicans in the House who are opposed to this to not just say they're opposed to it when they go on CNN or whatever, but to actually do something? Because they could do that. Mike Lawler here in New York and Don Bacon and Brian Fitzpatrick in Pennsylvania, they could all get together and just and either pass there's a certain type of resolution that forces a vote. They could do that. They could get really crazy and tell Mike Johnson that they're going to do what Matt Gaetz did and try to tank his speakership over this.
And Tim Miller's right. I think he puts it perfectly when he says that Donald Trump is a mad king, and that these people like Dave Portnoy elected a moron. And it's good that Dave Portnoy is speaking out now, but the time to speak out would have been in October and November. You know, whether they liked Kamala Harris or not, she would have likely continued the policies of the Biden administration when we had, yes, inflation, but otherwise a good economy, and you didn't have this uncertainty, and chaos that anyone with a brain could have seen that Donald Trump's second term was going to be full of, because his first term was that way. It was chaos every single day. And that's one of the things that's a bit incredible to me. I guess all that mattered was their tax cuts, but all of these large corporations should have been behind Kamala Harris and opposing Donald Trump because of their stocks that were doing great. They were making tons of money. They could raise their prices as much as they wanted to and gouge people as much as they wanted to. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, but they were able to do that, and they just blamed it on inflation. There was no real pushback from the Biden administration, and there wouldn't have been any real pushback from Kamala Harris administration. So it would have been better for all of these large corporations that put their money behind Donald Trump. But with Dave Portnoy, again, it's good that he's speaking out now, but it's a perfect example of MAGA and right-wingers who only care when it affects them. You know, he's upset because he's lost millions of dollars in the stock market, but he didn't care about all the other people that Donald Trump was going to harm and is now harming.
The small handful of moderate Republicans in the House who are smartly or rightly criticizing this actually have power and agency here. It's just we haven't seen them use it in like a decade or two, so we sort of forget that they do. But they do. They could act right now, and we could stop that. They could stop this afternoon if Don Bacon put up a privilege resolution. They forced it through the House and forced it through the Senate, and then Trump could veto it, or we'd see how that would turn out. But the majority votes are against this in both houses if the small group of normal Republicans had the courage to do something about it.
Well, I'm done looking for courage.
Yeah.
Why not their own political salvation?
Sure.
I mean, right now the smart political bet, right? Like there's
Great
no
point.
courage. Like that's so 2014.
Yeah.
But why not? I mean, you could be well funded if you put together a pro economy coalition in Congress with Democrats and Republicans. Jamie Dimon is obviously shopping for someone who's interested in not destroying the economy. I mean, you'd have a receptive ear at Capitol Hill. You could also do what used to happen in the old days. I mean, Congress used to, senators used to mean something around the world. I mean, you've got men and women in the Congress who don't mean anything. I don't know why anyone would go in a codel, because they have taken that branch of government off the field in terms of governance. I mean, why wouldn't you do it if not because you know it's wrong, because you know it's political suicide?
Yeah, look, and all these guys are scared of Trump, I guess, that they're losing a primary. But these guys, these
frontliners, afraid of their neighbors and their voters. They're angry and scared.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And maybe, it's only been 4 days that the market started to go down and so maybe that calculus changes for some of them. We haven't seen a lot of evidence of that over the last, since 2016. But look, I think so. I've been saying this for a long time. Just as a side thing for them to play fantasy politics and go back to the old days, people used to switch parties.
Yeah.
It's crazy kind of to me that none of these people have done that since Trump got in 2016. I mean, in our time, Arlen Specter and Jim Jeffords, we could go down the list, right?
Yeah.
So if things got that bad, I mean, I bet Brian Fitzpatrick could win as a Democrat in his suburban Philly district if he decided he wanted to do that. Anyway, there are a lot of different levers they could pull. It's just they've all decided they don't want to pull them, and then you know, they're going to tweet about it instead and hope that they can survive.
I know some people that watch this channel will probably don't like Tim Miller because, you know, he's a former Republican, or maybe he still is a Republican. But to me, the things that Tim Miller say, at least in instances like this, they make sense. And it's just incredible that the Republicans have gone so insane that a person who was an RNC spokesperson now seems sane, and he's saying logical things. And he's right. Nicole Wallace, I agree with her as well, that at some point, if this continues on, you would have to think that the Republicans will be getting so much flack from their constituents that they're going to be putting pressure on Trump and the White House to change these policies. And you know what happens? I'm sure they're hearing from like Walmart, and Walmart saying, hey, you know, we have stores full of Chinese products. Our prices are going to go up, and cut into their billions and billions of profits. But in terms of Tim Miller's right with Donald Trump, he thinks this is going to work because he's a moron. And, you know, he doesn't care about the Republican Party. If some of these guys get voted out, Trump still views himself as a king, and, you know, the Supreme Court is allowing a lot of that. Now, hopefully, if the Democrats are able to take one or both houses in the midterms, they'll actually be able to, and actually even try to fight back against Trump. But I don't think Trump is worried about that. He thinks what he's doing is right. It's going to be successful, and all of these countries are going to come to him with tears in their eyes and say, sir, please, please remove the tariffs. It's not happening that way, but Trump doesn't believe that. But what do you think about all this? Do you agree with Tim Miller? Do you think the Republicans in Congress could do something or will do something at some point? Like I said, I think it really depends on how long this drags on. But let me know what you think about Tim Miller. Let me know what you think about these few MAGA figures like Dave Portnoy speaking out. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. This is Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.